There's a deeply unsettling paradox at the heart of modern America. The United States spends more on healthcare per person than any other large, wealthy nation on Earth. In 2023, that number was a staggering $14,570 for every single citizen. And yet, despite this mountain of cash, the U.S. has the lowest life expectancy among its peers. While countries spending half as much watch their citizens live longer, healthier lives, American life expectancy has stalled and even started to drop. But this isn't just a story about a broken healthcare system. This is a story about a way of life. A way of life that's been engineered, marketed, and sold to us as the American dream, but for millions, is twisting into a nightmare. It's a slow-motion crisis that isn't unfolding in hospitals, but in our homes, our cars, and our grocery stores. What if the very rhythm of our daily lives, the commute to work, the food on our plates, how we spend our downtimes, a carefully built trap, a trap that's not just making us sick, but is literally shaving years off our lives? Today, we're not just looking at the symptoms, we're going to dissect the disease. We'll expose the 5 hidden pillars of the American lifestyle that have built a lethal environment, turning the land of opportunity into a landscape of chronic illness and early death. This is the uncomfortable truth about why the modern American way of life has become a death trap. 1. The sedentary trap. Let's start with the most basic part of our daily lives, movement, or, more accurately, the stunning lack of it. The human body is a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering, built for motion. Our ancestors walked, ran, hunted, and gathered. Their survival was staked on it. Our survival, it seems, now depends on sitting perfectly still. Think about it. We wake up, sit for breakfast, sit in a car to work, sit at a desk for 8 hours, sit in the car to get home, and then sit on the couch to relax from a long day of well-sitting. This is the beat of modern American life, and it's killing us. Recent federal data paints a shocking picture of our national inertia. Based on data from 2017 to 2020, about 25.3% of American adults get zero physical activity or exercise outside of their job. Let that sink in. For 1 in 4 people, the walk to the coffee machine is the peak of their daily workout. And that number hides even bigger problems in certain areas. In states like Mississippi, that figure climbs to over 30% of adults who are completely inactive. This isn't just about being lazy. It's a crisis of design. We've built our towns and cities for cars, not for people. Sprawling suburbs without sidewalks, shopping centers you can only get to by highway, and a near-total dependence on cars have surgically removed movement from our daily lives. The simple act of walking to a grocery store or a park, a normal part of life in so many other countries, has become a rare event or, in some places, a life-threatening one. The fallout from this sedentary life is a catastrophe. When we stay seated for hours on end, our bodies basically go into standby mode, like a computer that's gone to sleep. The electrical activity in our leg muscles goes flat, like a radio that's been unplugged. Blood circulation slows to a crawl, turning our arteries into a slow-moving traffic jam where fatty acids can easily cause a pop. Our body's response to insulin drops, which is like a key suddenly not working in a lock, dramatically increasing the risk of type 2 diabetes. The very enzymes that break down fats in our blood plummet. After just a few hours of sitting, your body's entire metabolic engine is seriously impaired. Here's another way to think about it. Spending hours parked in a chair can be as damaging to your cardiovascular health in some ways as smoking. Each moment of stillness is like a small deposit into a bank account for chronic disease. We've gotten so used to this that we don't even see it as dangerous anymore. We chalk up back pain, weight gain, and exhaustion as the normal cost of living. The problem is also deeply psychological. We've been trained to see exercise as a chore, a separate, scheduled task to be jammed into an already overflowing day. It's something you go do at a gym, not something that's woven into your life. That mindset is its own trap. It lets us justify our inactivity. "I don't have time for the gym today" becomes the go-to excuse, when the real problem is that our entire day is designed like a house with no stairs. This creates a vicious cycle. The less we move, the more our bodies fight against it. It's like a car left to rust in a garage. The longer it sits, the harder it is to get it started again. Muscles weaken, joints get stiff, and our energy levels crash. It's a downward spiral that leads straight to the diseases now crushing our nation: obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and even some cancers. The chair has become one of the most dangerous objects in the American home, and our surrender to it is the first pillar of the death trap. The supersized deception. If the first pillar of this trap is how little we move, the second is what we're eating while we sit still. And in America, eating is all about one thing: more. We're living in the era of the supersized deception, a cultural takeover where quantity has steamrolled quality, and our idea of a normal meal has been dangerously warped. This isn't just about a giant pizza or a novelty soda now and then. This is a mindset baked into our food culture. When Americans travel, one of the most common complaints is how small the portions are everywhere else. What's seen as a perfectly normal, satisfying meal in Italy or Japan is often viewed as a ripoff or an appetizer in the US. That viewpoint shows a fundamental misunderstanding of food. We've been trained to see value in volume, not in nutrition or flavor. The restaurant and fast food industries are the master architects of this deception. They've brilliantly marketed value to mean getting the most food for the least money, no matter the health cost. For a small price bump, you can double the fries, double the soda, and double the calories. It feels like a smart financial choice, but it's a disastrous biological one. Eating out is a huge driver of this. On average, restaurant meals are packed with more calories, fat, and sodium than home-cooked ones. But even our kitchens have been infiltrated. Recipe portion sizes in American cookbooks have exploded over the years. Our dinner plates have literally gotten bigger. A subtle psychological trick that nudges us to fill them with more food. Like using a bigger bucket to fetch water, you'll always bring back more than you need. This obsession with size short-circuits our natural limeful signals. Think of these signals as a smoke detector. When we constantly overwhelm our stomachs with huge amounts of food, it's like setting off the alarm so many times with burnt toast that we just start ignoring it. We learn to eat until the plate is clean, not until our hunger is gone, which is like waiting for the kitchen to fill with smoke instead of listening to the first warning beep. A landmark study from the National Institutes of Health showed this perfectly. When people were fed an ultra-processed diet, they automatically ate 500 more calories a day compared to when they ate a minimally processed diet. Part of the reason is that these ultra-processed foods are just easier to overeat. They are softer and less filling, so you can wolf them down before your brain gets the memo. Second, this supersized culture is the direct fuel for our obesity epidemic. Between 2021 and 2023, the adult obesity rate was a staggering 40.3%. In 2023, 23 states had an adult obesity rate of 35% or higher. A little over a decade ago, in 2012, no state was that high. This is no accident. It's the direct, predictable result of a food system that relentlessly pushes more calories on us. The health consequences are grim. Obesity is a major risk factor for a whole slate of chronic diseases. Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, certain cancers, and severe joint problems are all tied to excess body weight. As of 2022, 1 in 8 people worldwide were living with obesity, and the World Health Organization now calls it a chronic, relapsing disease, not a lifestyle choice. The real deception is that we think we're in control. We think we're just getting our money's worth, but our choices are being manipulated by a system built to maximize profit. The oversized portions, the value meals, the bottomless refills, they aren't gifts. They are finely tuned instruments of overconsumption. The supersized deception has turned our appetite into a liability, and it's the second, and maybe most obvious, pillar of the American death trap, the processed food pandemic. Now let's go deeper into the trap, beyond the chair and the giant plate, and look at the chemical makeup of what we even call food. If you walk through a typical American supermarket, you'd be forgiven for thinking you're in some kind of food-like product museum. A huge chunk of what's for sale isn't really food. It's a collection of industrially produced, edible substances. Welcome to the processed food pandemic. Scientists call these ultra-processed foods, or UPFs. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization defines them as formulations of ingredients you would unfind in a home kitchen, things like artificial flavors, colors, emulsifiers, glucose syrup, and hydrogenated oils. Think soft drinks, packaged snacks, sugary cereals, and frozen dinners. In America, these are the bedrock of our diet. A jaw-dropping analysis from Johns Hopkins found that ultra-processed foods make up over half of all calories consumed at home by U.S. adults. For our kids and teens, it's even worse, with some studies showing that UPFs make up nearly 2/3 of their caloric intake. The U.S. is the world leader, with UPFs making up about 60% of our daily intake. So why is this so dangerous? Because these products aren't just food with a few extra ingredients. They're entirely different substances. Study after study has linked high consumption of UPFs to a greater risk of cardiovascular disease, obesity, and colorectal cancer. For every 10% increase in the share of ultra-processed foods in your diet, your risk of dying from any cause jumps significantly. One of the most devious things about UPFs is how they hijack our biology. These foods are scientifically engineered to be hyper-palatable. Food scientists and labs fine-tune the bliss point, the perfect storm of salt, sugar, and fat that lights up the reward centers in our brain, much like a slot machine is designed to keep you pulling the lever. This is why you can crush a whole bag of chips and still not feel full. The food is engineered to bypass our natural fullness cues and drive overconsumption. They do this by stripping out the very things that make food filling: fiber and water. It's like taking a juicy orange and reducing it down to a spoonful of sugar. The sugar provides a quick burst of energy, but the fiber and water that would have made the orange filling are gone. You can inhale a massive number of calories in a very short time, long before your stomach can send the "hey, we're good down here" signal to your brain. And nutritionally, they're a wasteland. They are packed with added sugars, unhealthy fats, and sodium, while being almost completely empty of essential vitamins and minerals. This creates a bizarre paradox. You can be both overfed and undernourished. It's like filling your car's gas tank with soda. The tank is full, but the engine has none of the actual fuel it needs to run. The rise of UPFs is a story about money and convenience. They're cheap to make, have an incredibly long shelf life, and are sold to us as the perfect solution for our busy lives. But that convenience has a terrifying cost. We've traded our health for a few extra minutes in our day. The result is a population that is increasingly sick, tired, and hooked on the very products that are killing them. This pandemic of processed food is the third and most widespread pillar of the American death trap. We're halfway through, and I know, the picture is pretty grim. We've covered how our sedentary lives, supersized portions, and processed diets are building a lethal environment. If this is hitting home for you, and you want to keep digging into the systems that shape our health, take a quick second to subscribe to the channel. We go deep on these topics every week, and when you subscribe, you help support independent content that questions the way things are. Alright, let's get back to it and look at the next pillar of the trap: the nutrient void. This brings us to our fourth pillar, a silent crisis happening on a microscopic level inside our bodies. The nutrient void is the direct result of the processed food pandemic. We are living in a time of unbelievable caloric abundance, yet we're suffering from widespread nutrient deficiencies. The modern American diet is energy-rich but nutrient-poor. It's like trying to build a house with nothing but drywall. You have tons of material, but you're missing the wood for the frame, the wires for electricity, and the pipes for plumbing. The structure might look big, but it's fundamentally unstable and non-functional. Let's just look at the data. A national survey revealed that a staggering 94.3% of the U.S. population doesn't meet the daily requirement for vitamin D. 88.5% are deficient in vitamin E, 52.2% in magnesium, 44.1% in calcium, and 43% in vitamin A, and 4 potassium, which is critical for heart function. Virtually 100% of the population gets less than the recommended amount. These aren't some obscure bonus nutrients. These are the absolute fundamentals of health. A lack of magnesium, which is a key player in over 300 processes, is like a factory losing its main supervisor. Dozens of critical jobs stopped getting done correctly. How did we end up here? We stopped eating real food. The nutrients our bodies are screaming for are found in fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, and whole grains. But as we've seen, those foods have been systematically pushed out of the diet and replaced by ultra-processed products. When you refine a whole grain into white flour, you throw away the bran and the germ. It's like tearing the most important chapters out of a book and only reading the cover. And even when companies fortify these products by adding some vitamins back in, it's a cheap imitation. A vitamin pill, unreplicate the complex web of thousands of compounds that all work together in a piece of broccoli or a handful of almonds. It's like having a photo of a forest instead of the forest itself. This nutrient void has devastating consequences. On a day-to-day basis, it shows up as chronic fatigue, brain fog, and a weak immune system. You might feel tired all the time or get sick more often. These are classic symptoms of a body being starved of its essential fuel. Over the long haul, these deficiencies set the stage for chronic diseases. Chronic inflammation, a state of constant, low-level, internal fire is fueled by a diet low in the anti-inflammatory nutrients found in plants. This inflammation is a key driver of heart disease, arthritis, and even Alzheimer's. It also wrecks our gut health. The trillions of bacteria in our gut thrive on fiber from real food. When we starve them, it's like a garden getting overgrown with weeds, leading to everything from obesity to anxiety. The tragedy of the nutrient void is that it's invisible. You can't see a vitamin D deficiency like you can see extra body fat. It's a hidden hunger. Millions of Americans are walking around in a state of chronic malnutrition, totally unaware that their diet is failing them. This invisible starvation is the fourth pillar of the death trap. The pill-popping culture. So, we've seen how our sedentary lives, oversized portions, processed diets, and nutrient-starved bodies create a perfect storm for chronic disease. And that brings us to the fifth and final pillar of the American death trap, our so-called solution. When the inevitable bill for our lifestyle comes due, we don't change the lifestyle, we take a pill. America has cultivated a pill for every ill culture. It's a belief that for every problem, there's a pharmaceutical fix. It's like constantly bailing water out of a sinking boat instead of just patching the hole. You might stay afloat for a while, but you're not actually fixing the problem, and you're spending all your energy on a temporary fix. High blood pressure, there's a pill for that. High cholesterol, there's a pill for that. Type 2 diabetes, there are several pills for that. The statistics will take your breath away. According to a Penn State study, an American male born in 2019 can expect to spend 48% of his life on prescription medication. For a female, that number leaps to an incredible 60% of her life. For the majority of their time on this planet, most American women will be taking at least one prescription drug. Prescription drugs have become our default medical treatment. By age 40, the majority of American men are on medication. For women, that line is crossed at just 15 years old. This isn't just about truly life-saving medicine. It's about the mass medicalization of problems that are, for the most part, byproducts of our way of life. We are spending trillions to treat diseases that are largely preventable. This culture is fired up by a relentless marketing machine. The United States is one of only 2 countries that lets drug companies advertise directly to consumers. We're flooded with commercials that sell a fantasy. Don't change your life. Just add our prescription to it. This approach creates a dangerous illusion of health. A person might get their blood pressure under control with medication, but the underlying disease, the arterial damage, the insulin resistance is often still raging beneath the surface. Like painting over rust on a car, the outside looks better, but the metal is still corroding underneath. The pill becomes a chemical crutch that allows us to keep doing the very things that made us sick. And this over-reliance on drugs has its own dangers. Every drug has side effects. And when people are taking multiple medications, the risk of dangerous interactions skyrockets. It's not rare for someone to be prescribed one drug to treat a disease, and a second drug to treat the side effects of the first one. This culture also breeds a sense of helplessness. It teaches us to outsource our health. Instead of feeling empowered to make changes, we become passive patients, waiting for the next prescription. The pill-popping culture is the final, locking mechanism of the American death trap. It takes the victims of the first 4 pillars, and instead of leading them back to health, it just makes their slow decline more manageable and a whole lot more profitable. Escaping the trap, we've walked through the 5 pillars of this death trap: the sedentary culture, the supersized portions, the processed foods, the nutrient void, and the pill-popping culture that masks the problem. It's a bleak picture, but recognizing the design of a trap is the very first step to dismantling it. The power to escape doesn't come from a new fad, diet, or a miracle pill. It comes from a series of small, deliberate acts of rebellion against the system. You can rebel against the sedentary trap by consciously putting movement back into your life. It can be taking the stairs, parking at the far end of the lot, a 10-minute walk after dinner. These small things add up. Waking your body up. You can rebel against the supersized deception by reclaiming what a portion is. Use a smaller plate. Listen to your body's "I'm full" signal instead of the clean plate rule. Learn to find value in nourishment, not just volume. You can rebel against the processed food pandemic by choosing to eat real food. This might be the most powerful act of all. It means spending more time in the produce aisle than the snack aisle. It means picking things with ingredients you actually recognize. It means cooking, even if it's simple. Preparing your own food is the single most effective way to take back control. And when you tackle the processed food problem, you automatically start to fix the nutrient void. When you eat a diet full of a variety of whole foods, you flood your body with the vitamins and minerals it's been desperate for. You start to fill that void, and you'll feel your energy return and your body begin to heal itself. Finally, you can rebel against the pill-popping culture by starting to see your lifestyle as medicine. Work with your doctor not just to manage your numbers, but to attack the root causes. See every healthy meal and every walk as a dose of the most powerful medicine there is. For so many of the chronic diseases hammering America, lifestyle change isn't just an add-on therapy. It is the most effective treatment we have. Escaping this trap isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. It's about recognizing that the normal American lifestyle is anything but normal from a biological standpoint. It is an aberration, a massive experiment that has gone terribly wrong. The system isn't designed for your health. It's designed for profit and convenience. But you don't have to be a passive consumer in that system. You can be an active creator of your own well-being. The path out of the trap isn't easy, but it is simple. Move more, eat real food, cook your own meals. These are the keys. We just have to remember how to use them. I want to hear from you. What part of this modern lifestyle do you feel is the biggest trap? Is it the food, the lack of movement, or something else? Share your experience and your own acts of rebellion in the comments below. Your story might just be the spark someone else needs to start their own journey out of the trap. Thanks for watching.